Hello everybody, today we're going to be taking a look at what to watch for at the first poll closing on election night. If you have ever watched or paid attention to any election night coverage in the past, you will know that polls close in different sets of states every 30 minutes or an hour from 7 p.m. all the way until 1 a.m. Eastern. The largest individual closing in number of states is 8 p.m. as you can see here. But the most electoral votes at stake in any poll closing is at 9 p.m. Now I will be doing my absolute best to get as many videos out analyzing all of the major closings before election night. But anyways, starting today with the first group at 7 p.m. Eastern, there is Georgia, Indiana, Kentucky, South Carolina, Vermont, and Virginia. There aren't any true toss-ups here for the presidential race, but the margin of victory for Trump in Georgia and Biden in Virginia is worth paying attention to. Realistically, for Trump to have any chance in this race, he will be expected to win Georgia by over 3 points. Back in 2016, Trump had a 15 to 20 point lead for most of the evening, until it tightened pretty dramatically later on, and his final margin, of course, was just over 5%. Now, saying that, who really knows who will be ahead and when with all of the mail and early vote coming in this year? But do pay attention to the margins in Atlanta's suburbs, specifically Cobb County. If Joe Biden is to pull off the upset statewide, he will need to pick up a few points over Clinton's numbers there in 2016. As for Virginia, though, typically Republican candidates lead for most of the evening before the DC suburb results come in, with around 80% of the vote in statewide. If you remember back in 2016, Donald Trump still led Hillary Clinton by a full percentage point when 90% of the estimated vote was already counted in Virginia. But eventually, Hillary ended up winning by 5.5 points when all of the vote was counted and in. However, in this unconventional election year, I anticipate that we could almost see the opposite effect due to the early vote favoring Democrats by 15 points so far, according to NBC. Honestly, Biden could be the one that is up big early before Trump eventually closes the gap a bit as the night goes on. Joe Biden's 12-point lead, though, in the polling average there suggests to me at least that a win of less than 10 points would spell trouble for his campaign across the Rust Belt. Moving on, though, to the other 4 states, Vermont is basically as safe blue as a state can really get, while Kentucky and Indiana should go red by pretty comfortable margins for the president. South Carolina, on the other hand, is borderline competitive, as Trump leads by just 7 points in 538's polling average as of right now. But to say that Biden stands any chance of winning the state would honestly be wishful thinking. Ultimately, Trump should win anywhere from 8 to 12 points in South Carolina, and obviously the higher the better for his chances in the neighboring toss-up state of North Carolina or even Georgia, while the lower, obviously the worse. As for the U.S. Senate, though, Georgia has 2 highly competitive races, but the Republican incumbent in the regular Senate election, David Perdue, is mostly overperforming Trump in polls there. My best guess is that he will end up somewhere around 1 to 2 points ahead of whatever Trump's numbers are, but the further above, obviously the worse for Trump in other states with competitive Senate races that we will go on to mention later in this video or in videos to come. Also, make sure to keep an eye out on the Georgia special Senate race as well, which will, in all likelihood, go to a runoff scheduled for early January 2021, but the question is, will it be incumbent Senator Kelly Loeffler or Congressman Doug Collins facing Democrat Raphael Warnock in that runoff? Most experts seem to believe that Doug Collins would be the better option for the GOP based on public opinion, but Loeffler has a significant money and endorsement advantage, so we'll have to wait and see. The other Senate race, though, worth paying attention to at this closing is in South Carolina. For quite some time, this race was compared to Kentucky's Senate race because the Republican incumbents in both of these states, Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell, are despised, and that is an understatement. Ultimately, though, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's lead has stabilized and actually improved quite a bit, while Graham's has plummeted. This is in large part due to Jamie Harrison, the Democrat in South Carolina, and his incredible fundraising numbers over the last few months, which has led Graham to even bring it up at Amy Coney Barrett's Supreme Court nomination hearing.
Me and you are going to come closer and closer about regulating money, because I don't know what's going on out there, but I can tell you there's a lot of money being raised in this campaign. I'd like to know where the hell some of it's coming from. But that's not your problem.
Jamie Harrison led in the latest Morning Consult poll by 2 points, which is the same poll that had David Perdue in Georgia up by just 2 points over his opponent. So yeah, Lindsey Graham is incredibly worried, and he really should be, although my own personal prediction has Graham winning and being reelected by around 4 to 6 points. Hats off and kudos to Harrison, though, for making it as close as it is and forcing the GOP to spend unnecessary resources in this race. The only other Senate election, though, in any of these states is Virginia, but incumbent Democrat Mark Warner should cruise to re-election by an even larger margin than the presidential race there. And the last thing to go over is the House races, and there are quite a few worth watching. In Georgia's 6th congressional district, Democrat Lucy McBath won in the 2018 midterms by 1 percentage point and 3,500 votes. She will be going up against former Republican incumbent Karen Handel once again, but this time the incumbency factor will be on her side, and the district is trending even bluer in 2020. And right next to that district is Georgia's 7th, where Republican incumbent Rob Woodall held onto his seat in 2018 against Democrat Carolyn Bourdeaux by just 400 votes and 0.14% of 1%. However, Woodall has announced that he won't be running for another term, and Bourdeaux now looks primed for a victory this time around against Republican Rich McCormick. Do keep in mind, though, that this district, up until 2018, went to the GOP by over 20 points in every race since being redrawn in 2012. So if anything, that just goes to show you that the Atlanta suburbs are rapidly shifting towards the Democratic Party. Moving out of Georgia, though, there are 2 Republican-held seats with no incumbent running for re-election that are considered to be competitive. These are Indiana's 5th and Virginia's 5th. Indiana's 5th is historically Republican, and incumbent Susan Brooks won re-election in 2018 by 13 points. So by all known standards, it would not be considered a possible pickup for Democrats if it weren't for the fact that Brooks decided not to run for re-election. According to 538, Democrat Christina Hale led Republican Victoria Spartz by 7 points in the latest poll conducted on August 21st, but virtually every forecast has it down to a complete toss-up, including Politico and Cook Political Report. In Virginia's 5th, though, as many of you may know, Republican incumbent Denver Riggleman was beat in the primary by Bob Good, who will end up facing Democrat Cameron Webb. Webb has led slightly in polling, but personally I expect Good to pull off the victory in the traditionally Republican district. The dynamic of the 4 races I just mentioned, though, is that Democrats will expect to win both of Georgia's House races, while Republicans expect to win in the other 2 I just mentioned. Also, Virginia's 2nd and 7th districts, along with South Carolina's 1st, are all currently held by Democrats that should be held on to in close affairs as well. But all of that is basically a guide for which races to pay attention to at the first poll closing at 7 p.m. Eastern on November 3rd. Let me know in the comments who you think will win each of them and which other poll closings you want me to cover before Election Day. I hope you all enjoyed this video, though. If you did, please make sure to like it down below and subscribe to the channel while you're at it if you haven't already. Also, check out more content on your screen here. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, tune in next time. EP out.